Well, welcome back to the Play by Play podcast, where today we are completely shifting over from the NBA and most recently NBA free agency all the way to the NFL, with starting with division predictions and starting in the AFC West, doing full on AFC West division predictions. Really quick, if you guys are watching this episode on YouTube, I want to encourage you to go down below, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, as well as comment and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those ads are down below in the description. On all of those social medias, you will get to see my recent reactions to breaking news within the NBA and the NFL, and you will never miss for whenever the podcast uploads an episode. I do want to caution you guys that we are kind of in this really weird middle area. Being in a basketball and football content creator right now is kind of the dead spot of the year, where there's not a lot going on. We're waiting for NFL preseason to come around. The NBA is kind of out of service as of right now, so there's not really much to really fill in. So if content seems to be coming out at a much slower pace, if there isn't as much coming out in terms of uploads and whatnot, I apologize. There's just not a ton to really talk about right now, and I'm going to try my best as a creator to try and be creative, to create ideas and try to bust out more and more content for you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and not waste any more time, and let's hop into this. So the AFC West has by far been one of, if not the most dominant division within the last, 8 to 10 years, really, of the NFL. Most recently, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs have been on an absolute warpath in terms of, Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl victories. Yes, they did lose this previous year's Super Bowl to the Philadelphia Eagles, but prior to that, I think they had been to like 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls and won three or four of them, which is absolutely ridiculous to say the least. And people forget that prior to that, the Denver Broncos had a chokehold on the AFC for a very long time. It was kind of them and the New England Patriots flipping dominance back and forth. Denver ends up going to the Super Bowl in both 2013 and 2015, with, of course, winning Super Bowl 50 against the Carolina Panthers in 2015. And even the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers, neither of them have had quite the playoff dominance as Denver and Kansas City have had in past years, but they've also never really hit big time low points. Sure, there were, maybe some okay to bad seasons here and there, but both teams have both had so much potential and so much great young talent coming through them. I mean, especially right now with, guys like Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey and Joe Alt and whatnot on that Chargers offense. And then even looking to Las Vegas with, draft additions that they had this year with the likes of Ashton Genty, and probably most importantly to highlight in this division as of right now, which is the 4 Hall of Fame coaches that are in this division right now, in Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, and Jim Harbaugh. Sean Payton and Andy Reid, probably 2 of the most prolific play callers in NFL history. Pete Carroll, who seems to be able to elevate really any kind of talent that goes through any kind of program that he has. And Jim Harbaugh, somebody who has won the big one on almost every single level of the game, has had big time success on every single level of football, and guys that are just big time motivators and have shown the ability to immediately build the right culture wherever they go. And that's really what makes this division special, not to mention the countless amount of talent that they have. And of course, now having 4, really suitable starting quarterbacks, of course, Mahomes and Herbert, the highlight at the top of that list, but a new sophomore in Bo Nix, and then of course Geno Smith, who has seemed to revive his career over the past 3 or 4 years, coming from Seattle to join Pete Carroll in Las Vegas. But like I said, we're not going to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and hop into these predictions. So I did this a couple of years back. It was a little bit of a mini game that I called Better or Worse. So basically what I have is I have all 32 teams, I apologize, ranked in order by record. And what I did was I put their previous year's record. I put my prediction for this year's record, whether I thought that was going to be better, the same, or worse than they were last year. I listed their best additions, I listed their biggest losses, and then I also made a little bit of a description that I will be going through all of this. Now, I was going to do this for all 30 teams, but unfortunately, if I did that, that would be a really, really long video, and I'm trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter and a lot more digestible for you guys. So that's kind of the framework that we're going to have for these division prediction episodes moving forward, and kind of some things that I write down in a little bit more of a script format. So we start off, at the bottom of the division with the Las Vegas Raiders. They are ranked on my better or worse list as the number 22 ranked team in the league. Their 2024-2025 record was 4-13, and my prediction for them, I have them going better, a better record at 7-10. Some of the notable additions that they have, of course, Geno Smith. They signed away Jeremy Chin from the Washington Commanders, Raheem Mostert and Ashton Jeanty both at the backfield. They drafted Jack Betch at wide receiver, Pete Carroll, and then also they drafted Darian Porter, cornerback, in this previous year's draft. And really their only notable loss is Robert Spillane heading over to the New England Patriots. And to be honest, I don't really understand the hate on Vegas. There seems to be a lot of people really overestimating, their ability. Obviously, a lot of people have them at the bottom of the division, as do I, but a lot of people still have them within that, 4 or 5 win type of margin. And I really don't get it because they just got so much better. I mean, like I just mentioned, the team finally has a solid veteran foundation coach in Pete Carroll, who not only knows how to lock down his defensive front, but will also know how to utilize every single player to the best of his ability on the offensive end. We saw that so much with what he did in Seattle, whether it was with Russell Wilson, whether it was with Geno Smith. The man just elevates talent. He gives a real energizing bug, and he's a guy who really knows how to work the run game, right? He did it at USC with Thunder and Lightning with what was it, Ladarius White, I believe, and Reggie Bush. He did in Seattle with the likes of Marshawn Lynch, and even latter careers with guys like Kenneth Walker, right, and Rashad Penny and whatnot. And now he has Raheem Mostert, who's the veteran running back who offers you a lot of speed, but by far one of the best college running backs that we have seen in a while in Ashton Jeanty, who is a force who can truck through anything that comes through his way. So you add that in, not to mention Pete Carroll is going to have a quarterback that he's completely familiar with and that he knows will stay out of trouble and try to limit as many mistakes as he can in Geno Smith. Now, yes, when looking at the weaknesses of this team, the offensive line is probably the biggest hole. And when, the problem with the AFC West is there's so many talented pass rushers in this division, right? You have guys like Max Crosby and Chris Jones and Nick Bonito and Zach Allen and whatnot. They're going to be playing those guys, 6 out of their, 17, 18 games out of the year. But they have laid a little bit of the groundwork for that. Jackson Powers Johnson is a pretty good plug in the middle at the center position. That's really the whole foundation of the offensive line holds. But also, Ashton Jeanty, I think, has shown that he can create any offense into one of the most dynamic offenses into the entire league. And he will be able to turn dead plays into positive yardage, which is one of the most valuable assets that a player could have. Look at, Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position, whatnot. His ability to turn plays that are absolutely dead and be able to at least get to the line of scrimmage or just get a yard or two past it and move the chains forward just a little bit, that becomes really, really frustrating for opposing teams. Not to mention that Las Vegas also improved their vertical attack when it comes to the passing game, right? Jack Betch really saw it out of TCU. Of course, we cannot forget Brock Bowers at that tight end position. So those two guys going down the field. Jacoby Myers has been a really, really underrated wide receiver at that position so far in his career. So he's going to have solid production, especially with a quarterback who is a lot more accurate. And then on the defensive side, they plug things as well. They kept Max Crosby, which is absolutely huge. They're adding versatility in with Jeremy Shin, somebody who could play in the box in a safety role, could play as an off-ball linebacker in coverage, could also fill that middle line and be able to plug, the interior of the offensive run game that you're going up against. Really, really solid, secure tackler and whatnot. So that's a solid guy and a solid replacement for a guy like Robert Spillane, who you lose to Vegas. And then also potential number 1 overall corner late in the draft in Darian Porter. I know that he's not somebody that we really discussed a lot within this draft, but the Raiders getting them in the third, fourth round. He has really solid coverage ability, great size, especially for his youth. Especially with the lack of depth that the Raiders have within the secondary, he'll be able to plug in for day one and be a day one starter and day one impact guy for that Las Vegas team. So overall, I think the hate on Las Vegas is a little bit, it's a little bit too much. I think that they're going to be a lot better than a lot of people are expecting, and even if they don't improve tremendously in terms of their record, I think that they will be very, very competitive in a lot of close games this season that you're going to see, and I wouldn't be surprised if they blow past my prediction of 7-10 for them and potentially even sneak into the playoffs. I mean, we saw it previously with the AFC West, right? Last year we had the Chargers, we had the Broncos, we had the Chiefs all make it to the playoffs. Especially when you're playing talented opponents within your division, that's always going to help you out and just make you even better. So the way that I see it, the Las Vegas Raiders are playing solid competition, and they're going to be close with that competition, and that already makes them a good team long enough. Now we're gonna skyrocket high up to my list to the number 11th overall team in the league, which I having to be the Los Angeles Chargers. Now their 2024-2025 record was 11-6. My prediction for them stays the same at 11-6. Now they did have some solid additions to their side. They added Mekhi Becton, they added Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton into that backfield, and then also Trey Harris to work on the outside. Really, their only notable loss that I could really find for them was Poona Ford, kind of knocking up that middle side of the trenches in the defensive line. But he's not really a big-time, great top defensive tackle. He's more of an impact veteran and whatnot, so it's not a big-time loss for the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, I have them number 11th ranked in the league, and I have them third in the division this year, which, again, is really, really impressive for how talented this division is. My overview for them goes just like this, and that's the fact that Jim Harbaugh continues to be Jim Harbaugh. He continues to keep Justin Herbert's wide receiver room very thin, very young, and with the help of his offensive coordinator and Greg Roman, has continued to bolster the offensive line and running attack. You grab Mekhi Becton, who's now going to be able to slide in into the interior of that offensive line, right? You have Joe Alt, you have Slater on the right side. This is going to be one of the much better offensive lines within the league right now. Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris in the backfield. Harris, I've never really been a big-time fan of him. I've never really been a big-time fan of his production that he had in Pittsburgh. But Omarion Hampton was my favorite running back in this draft class. To me, he was almost on par with Ashton Jeanty, and especially with his pass-catching ability, that just adds another element and makes your offense much more unpredictable and allows him to get, extra yards and gives you a bailout, if your vertical attack, obviously down the field, is not working, right? Now, I just mentioned Harbaugh and Roman's strategy, and, we do have to admit that last year that strategy fell a little bit flat, with the passing offense falling to 19th and the rushing offense only at 17th. Now, that did come with, obviously, J.K. Dobbins getting hurt a little bit, and then obviously a guy like Gus Edwards not being, as effective on the outside zone running attack and whatnot. Now you have two premier running backs. You should begin to see that really begin to work in and begin to improve. And also, while they are keeping the wide receiver room a little bit thin, I do like some of the additions that they have. Mike Williams, not a big-time fan of. He's had drop issues within the past. He's had a tenure in LA. He wasn't that effective for them. He hasn't really been that effective since he's left LA. He's older. I don't really see that being a big-time impact. But Trey Harris from, I believe, Ole Miss, that they got in those middle rounds in the draft, I think offers them some really solid ability when it comes to the size department, right? You have Ladd McConkey now, who offers you that, almost like that Julian Edelman type of game it reminds me of. Speed, but also the ability to have a high football and field IQ and be able to get behind the defense whenever he wants to. Now you get a ball hawk in Trey Harris, who you're going to be able to throw it up to in the vertical game. He's going to be able to jump up and grab those balls. You could throw goal line fades and whatnot to get it to him if your offense begins to fall a little bit flat. That's going to be a really solid weapon for them to go to down the field. McConkey's going to work himself in, in that 5 to 10 yard, type area and be able to pick up, rack catches for them and whatnot within the passing game. And Trey Harris is now going to be able to give them a big time deep threat, which I think is going to be important. The real question mark for LA, it's going to come down to the performance of Justin Herbert in crunch time. We've all been ranking Justin Herbert as a top 10, top 5 even quarterback in this league. And year after year after year, he has failed to win when it comes down to it. He has failed to win during playoff time. He lost his lead to the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple of years back. He just had a horrendous performance, throwing, 3-4 interceptions against the Houston Texans in last year's wild card round. He is going to be the one that this team relies on because Harbaugh is solid. The offensive line is solid. You have defensive impact players like Derwin James and Khalil Mack still on the defensive side. You now have a really solid running game. And while your wide receiver room is thin, you have young guys who are going to be able to go out there and make prolific plays. It is going to be down to his consistent ability to play. If he can do that, I think that he has enough veteran coaching. I think that he has enough of an unpredictable offense between the running attack and the passing attack. I think he has enough defensive playmakers that the Chargers could still once again be one of the better teams within the National Football League and be at the top of the AFC conference in terms of record. But if he can't put together one playoff performance, it's not going to matter, and it's all going to be gone like that. So, Harbaugh can lead them there, right? He can lead the horse to water. But Justin Herbert needs to be the horse that drinks the water. And until he's able to do that, this Charger team, unfortunately, is going to become more and more disappointing each and every year because all they're really doing is adding more and more talent to their roster. Herbert needs to lock in. He needs to get better in crunch time. And if he can do that, this team could potentially compete for a Lombardi trophy. Then we're not going too far from that to the number 9th ranked team in the league in the Denver Broncos, in my opinion. Now, their 2024 record was 10-7. My prediction, I have them going better at 11-6. Some notable additions for the Broncos. You have Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, both from the San Francisco 49ers. Evan Ingram from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then they also drafted Jahdae Barron, Pat Bryant, and RJ Harvey. Notable losses for them would be interior linebacker, inside linebacker Cody Barton, and then also veteran running back Javonte Williams. Now, Denver has left me on a little bit of an edge following this offseason. It was successful. Don't get me wrong. It was a very, very successful offseason. There was a lot of talent pushed to this Denver team, and I'm very excited to see how these guys look. My issue is there are so many of the players that they picked up. So many of the players that they picked up have been injury prone. Hufanga has played 17 games in 2 years. He has averaged 7 to 8 games per year in the last 2 years. And at times recently, since his All-Pro appearance, and I believe it was like 2022, he tends to sometimes get lost in coverage, which for Denver is their biggest need at safety. Right? They didn't really need a big-time, hitter, a big-time playmaker. P.J. Locke and Brandon Jones kind of cover it themselves, but they're not amazing in coverage. That's what they really need out of the safety, so I'm hoping that Hufanga can offer that. Dre Greenlaw has only played 2 games since his Achilles injury in the Super Bowl, and just recently, as of a month ago, got hurt during training, and of course, Evan Ingram has had injury problems as well. That being said, when you look past those injuries, these additions are amazing. Right? Ingram gives them a stud tight end, which was probably their weakest position. It was 100% their weakest position on the offensive side. But in my opinion, probably the most weakest position on their entire team. He brings good versatility. He brings good speed. He could be a vertical threat down the field. He could play in the short pass game, hitting close outs and ins. He could also play on the outside and be a vertical threat, being able to be matched up against smaller cornerbacks. And Greenlaw and Hufanga, when healthy and when at their best, you add 2 all-pro level players to an already fantastic defense. I'm going to be very, very disappointed if this Denver defense is not within, top 3, at least top 5, right? And not to mention that Denver's draft, while unconventional, which is kind of the Sean Payton way, was good. I was not expecting Jahdae Barron in the first round, but he's a playmaker. He gives you a lot of really great insurance, especially for a Denver defense that lost both Pat Surtain and Riley Moss at the same time last year. And Moss, coming off of that injury, didn't look the same as he did at the beginning of the season, so it gives you insurance to go there. It gives you versatility. He could potentially play at the safety position as well, and he's a big-time playmaker. Whenever the Texas defense needed a big-time play, Jahdae Barron was there to make it. And meanwhile, you have R.J. Harvey at a UCF, who is kind of your standalone, standard Sean Payton running back. Another tremendous pass catcher who can create plays in the open field and has solid speed. Not much that you can really complain about that. And also Pat Bryant, who, probably isn't going to get a ton of playing time, right? Because Denver has some guys that they want to try out the wide receiver position. Marvin Mims Jr., obviously Troy Franklin. They still want to get more playing time and get a better connection with Bo Nix. But from what we're hearing out of training camp, it's that he's performing well against some of the top guys on this defensive end, and he's been really great as vertical pass catcher, especially deep passes down low to the end zone, which Denver held a lot of opportunities down the field this year, and they squandered some of them, so they need to be able to make those plays. So I think that Sean Payton will slowly be able to work Pat Bryant in as well. And not to mention, there's still so many great defensive guys, and the offensive line is one of the best in the league. So this Denver team, they're still young, they're deep, and now they have savvy, talented veteran presence on both sides of the ball. Again, it's kind of going to be on Bo Nix. How much of a step forward can he make off of his rookie season? Can he continue to develop and get better, or are we going to see him plateau because of his age like people were predicting? Can he start to make the big-time throws down the field more consistently? Is he going to be able to still get out of the pocket and use his legs? Is he going to be able to continue to progress? And if they can, and they pick up where they were last year, especially with the team that now has playoff-type experience, this Denver team is going to be scary. And in my opinion, they're close. They're close. They may not get it this year, but I think that they're very, very close to overtaking the Kansas City Chiefs and winning the division this year. Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, they are the third-ranked team in the league. Their 2024 record comes in at 15-2. My prediction for them, I have them winning the AFC West with a worse record at 13-4. Notable additions for them are Jalen Moore and Josh Simmons. Notable losses are Joe Thuney and Justin Reed. Now, you might be thinking, dude, what are you doing? You're ranking them third, but I do want to say, despite me ranking them third, let's not get this twisted. The Chiefs are as vulnerable as they have ever been. The wide receiver position has always been a position that has been kept thin from Patrick Mahomes. Now, at times, that's not by Kansas City's choice, right? It's really up to their receivers and a lot of the off-the-field issues that they've had. But that's not really their fault, right? Now, of course, every receiver is going to be elevated by Patrick Mahomes. But Rashid Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown all have the same speed-like skill set, right? And even Xavier Worthy towards the end of the season started to tail off a little bit, and the physicality of the game was kind of getting to him, and he wasn't able to make as much strides as we thought he was. None of them are tall, and none of them are physically able to consistently play well on the outside boundary. You add that with them trading Joe Thuney, you add that with Travis Kelce aging more and more, the pressure more than ever is going to be put on the back of Patrick Mahomes to carry them across the finish line this year once again. Now, that being said, as we have seen in years past, that has been no problem in the regular season for the superstar. I thought the last year's team was the weakest team that they ever had. They still went 15-2. And, you could argue if they played their starters in Denver during Week 17, they potentially could have gone 16-1. And they still beat Buffalo. And they still won over Baltimore. And they still made it to the Super Bowl. And were able to make big-time plays with that as well. The question for the Chiefs is, at what point do opposing teams finally begin to adjust and be able to contain Patrick Mahomes? Because this year he doesn't have as great of an offensive line. It's a little shallow. Are they going to be able to put him on his horse, on his back, on his legs, and put him in uncomfortable positions. And if they are able to do that and get to him and sack him consistently and have him running 10, 15, 20 yards back, how is he going to respond? Is he going to be able to make big time plays for them? He's shown it a little bit in the past. He's shown ability to be able to get out of harm's way, get out of the pressure, and still be able to make plays down the field and get yardage with his legs, be able to keep plays alive. When he's on his back foot and turning his back and running 20 yards back, is he going to be able to make those positive plays? And our team's going to be able to consistently continue to do that with the play calling of Andy Reid, with the reliability, despite his age, of Travis Kelce. Our team's going to be able to do that. Now, on the defense side of the ball, Justin Reid also leaves the defensive secondary vulnerable. And that's really the pattern here, right? There just isn't a lot of pops or tricks behind this team like we have seen in recent years. Nonetheless, they're still filled with veterans. Isaiah Pacheco, Chris Jones, Trey Smith on the offensive line, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce. I guess Hollywood Brown right now would constitute as a veteran. They still have one of the most experienced rosters in football. Great coaching. And with that, in my opinion, as much as I hate it, because I do think that this team is not nearly as good as they've been in recent years, I still think that could potentially be enough for them to win and overtake and win the division. Not saying that it's not a possibility that the Chargers and Broncos can contend, and I'm not saying that it's not a possibility that the Chiefs could get eliminated in their first playoff game, because this is as vulnerable as they have been. But in my opinion, you can't really go against the talent, the play calling that Patrick Mahomes and that Andy Reid duo have really shown. We doubt them every single year. They show up and they prove us wrong every single year. So just to recap, I have the Chiefs at number 1 at 13-4. I have the Broncos and the Chargers respectively at 2-3 at an 11-6 record. And then I have the Raiders coming in 4th place at 7-10. So, I guess with that comes the end of the video and comes to me asking what you guys think. What do you guys think about this AFC West division? Do you think it's the most talented in football? Do you think that we could potentially once again see the AFC Super Bowl contender come out of the AFC West? Who do you think is going to top it? Who do you think is going to be at the bottom? What order do you see? What are your record predictions? Who are you most excited to watch? What is your most excited matchup to see out of this division? Let me know all of that down below. Let me know all your answers to that down below, as well as leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment, leaving as many comments as you can, and sharing with your friends. And, of course, following us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All those apps are down below. We're on all of those social medias. You will get to see my latest reactions to breaking news within the NFL and the NBA. And you will never get to miss for whenever the podcast uploads. I'm really interested to hear you guys' replies. And without further ado, guys, that's all that I have for you guys today. I will see you guys on the next one. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, a great rest of the finish of the week. And peace.